He is only mentioned twice in all the Bible. He's mentioned here in Judges chapter 3 and verse 31. And then again in Judges chapter 5 and verse number 6. What is said about him is that he is a man of character and he is a man of courage. Little information is revealed about him, but he is used greatly and mightily by God. I want to study Shamgar today, and I want to make 3 observations about this man. I want you to see that Shamgar was Shamgar the worker, Shamgar the warrior, and Shamgar the winter. Again, Shamgar the worker, Shamgar the warrior, and Shamgar the winner. And notice these observations with me as I preach for a few moments on the subject, the man who was ready when the need arose. Shamgar the worker. The name Shamgar means either sword or cupbearer. Neither name would fit with the details we have concerning this man. He was like a sword in the hand of God, and as God used him to destroy the enemies of Israel. He was like a cupbearer or a surprise stranger who brought the cup of God's wrath upon those that God would judge. He is called the son of Anath. Anath was a Canaanite goddess of war. This might have been a nickname for Shamgar. And it is possible that he was called the warrior. This name also could mean that he was from the town of Beth Anath, which was located in the northeast of Israel and on the land belonging to the tribe of Naphtali. But of course, it could mean that his father was named Anath. But one thing we know, church, one thing we know for sure about Shamgar, that he was a farmer. He carried and he fought with an ox goad. An ox goad was not a weapon. It was an agricultural tool. It was a pole some 8 to 10 feet in length and about 2 inches in diameter. One end was tipped with a long iron point. This end was used to encourage the oxen he was driving to move. Oxen might not respond to a voice command or the pulling of the reins, but they would respond to a point of an ox goad. And I wish I had a praying church, because sometimes church folk act like the oxen. Every now and then, we don't want to respond to a voice command that we get from the man of God. Every time the man of God speaks to us, sometimes we dismiss what he says, but sometimes God gives the man of God an ox goad. Oh, y'all don't like that, but we'll move on here. But here we are today. He had an ox goad. And we notice that these oxen would not always respond to a voice command or the pulling of the reins, but they would respond to the sharp point of the ox goad. The other end of this tool was sharp like a spade. It was a metal blade used to clean wet clay, roots, and other impediments off the plow points. Another thing we know about Shamgar has to do with the time in which he lived. It was a very difficult time for the people of Israel, as you can read in your own time in Judges chapters 1 through 5 talk about the times in which they lived. They lived in a time of disobedience. Israel was turning away from God. They lived in a time where God had to discipline them, because the Lord had to chasten Israel, trying to get her to come back to him. Church, they lived in a time of disorder, a time where Israel was sinking into anarchy. And I stopped by today to tell you that the times in which Israel lived seem similar to the times that we're living in right now. In Judges chapter 21 and verse 25 seems apropos for this world today, that everybody is trying to do what is right in his or her own eyes. The nation of Israel was being oppressed by Jabin. Jabin was the king of Canaan, and Jabin was a powerful enemy, and he possessed 900 iron chariots. Judges chapter 4 and verse 3, his army seemed to be totally unbeatable. And as was the custom in those days, he probably would not allow the Israelites to arm themselves. And we see this in 1 Samuel 13, 19 through 23, and Judges chapter 5 and verse number 8. It was a time when the people of Israel were filled with fear. Judges 5, 6, and 7, they were afraid to travel the highway. Because of their oppressors, they were afraid to live in their homes because of those who would invade and attack them. I stopped by to tell you what's happened yesterday seems very prevalent for our lives today. It seems that while Israel was oppressed by Canaan, they were also under the attack of the Philistines. And I'll talk more about them in a moment. But one of the great lessons we can take away from Shamgar this morning, one of the great lessons we can take away from Shamgar is that God tends to use those that are already busy. When God called Shamgar, he called a man who was already busy. Shamgar was a man who was actively working to feed and to care for his family. And Paul reminds the child of God that the man of the house should prepare and provide for his family, because if he fails to do so, he's worse than an unbeliever. This man was busy. I wish I had a praying church. He was working to feed and care for his family. And when the enemy came, God used Shamgar as a chosen instrument. And I stopped by to tell us today that you don't have to worry about anything, because we live in a time where our enemies will come. But here we are today. God used Shamgar. Notice that Shamgar did not want to use God as an instrument. God wanted to use Shamgar as an instrument. But I stopped by to tell you, Central, God does not use lazy people in any great fashion. When he looks at the Church of Christ and places his hands on us, he usually likes to put his hands not on people who are lazy and who are running and who are shirking responsibility.